Choosing the highest companionship. After the pilgrimage, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, returned to Medina. One day, a couple of months later, he awoke his servant Abu Muwayhiba. He told him that the angel Gabriel has instructed him to go to Baqi', the graveyard where the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, will pray for the believers. As he stood there, he told Abu Muwayhiba that God has given him a choice: to have the keys of this world and enjoy it until its end, or to go be with God in paradise. Abu Muwayhiba begged the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, to choose this world, but the Prophet had already made his choice. Although there were many hints here and there over the last year, the companions were never expecting the Prophet to pass away. They loved him so much, they couldn't imagine a world without him. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, shortly thereafter came down with a bad fever. He was staying in the house of his beloved wife Aisha. Over the next few days, the Prophet became weaker and weaker, and people became very distraught. He had to have his uncle Abbas and his cousin Ali to carry him to the mosque to pray. It became very extremely hard for him to talk to people and to have any normal engagements. The news of the Prophet's sickness spread, and people became very, very upset. Many companions camped at the mosque to pray and to find out the news of the Prophet's health. The Prophet came out and sat at the mosque and advised the believers. And then he asked everyone, "Look, if I have any debts to fulfill, if anyone has a right over me, please come forth and let it be known." When nobody said anything, he repeated himself until a man came forth in his shyness to not answer the Prophet. Once you identified a man in need, and you didn't have money at the time, so you asked if somebody would give him some money on your behalf. And so I gave that man 3 dinars. The Prophet then told his family to give this man 3 dinars. One night, he tried to get up and lead the Isha prayer, but then he fainted while he was praying. When he regained his consciousness, he told people to follow Abu Bakr in the prayer. And then from that moment on, he told everybody to follow Abu Bakr in the prayer. One day he came out to sit next to Abu Bakr, and Abu Bakr was very shy to even lead the prayer. He told him, "I'm not going to pray." And the Prophet said, "Why would you disobey me?" So Abu Bakr, he's very deeply confused. How could he ever lead a prayer that the Prophet is praying with him? The Prophet's last public address was to tell people to take good care and honor the helpers, those who took him in and supported him through his toughest time. After that, he repeated over and over, preserve the daily prayers, keep up with your prayers. And he advised people, take care of those under your authority. Back in Aisha's house, the Prophet then, in a very weak voice, asked, "What do I have?" She understood that he meant, "What wealth do I have?" And she told him, "You only have 7 coins. He then told her immediately, "Go give that money to whoever poor people are in need. I don't want to meet my Lord with any worldly possessions." The next day, the Prophet was in and out of consciousness, and then one moment he took his wife by the head and whispered into her ear, "Bal Rafiq al-A'la," companionship with the Most High. And that was his last words as he passed away in his beloved wife's arms, lying in her lap. Muslims were all overcome with grief and just completely shocked at the passing of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. People cried when hearing the news. Omar lost his mind. He went around the mosque saying that he hasn't died and this is just a rumor of the hypocrites, and anyone who says he died must face my sword. Uthman and Ali were completely speechless. They were completely at a loss for words when people asked them. Abu Bakr then rode in and saw everybody's confusion and knew what was going on, and he went in and kissed the Prophet's forehead, telling him, "I wish I would have lost my mother and father rather than having lost you." He came out and grabbed Omar to talk some sense into him. "Omar, this is not what you're saying." And he went on to the pulpit and he told everyone, "Look, if you worship Muhammad, then know that he has passed away. But we worship Allah, who is eternal and living and will never die." And then he reminded them of the verse from Surah Al-Imran. It clearly says, this is the messenger of God. He is a human like messengers who came before. They passed away and his time will come as well. The community mourned and they laid the prophets to rest. Tens of thousands of people attended and came to pay their respects. There were many shifts of funeral prayers without an official imam to lead in respect to his place. The Prophet Muhammad was the best of humanity, a truly miraculous man, blessed immensely in so many ways. In the hadith, we are blessed to have a complete, preserved record of his devotion, his character, his preservation and teaching of the divine law. It is only befitting to mention in conclusion the reflection of Anas bin Malik. Anas was the young orphan boy who was 10 years old when the Prophet migrated to Medina. Anas's mother brought him to the Prophet and requested that he accept him as a servant. Anas would then live in the house of the Prophet for 10 years as his servant. Many years later, someone asked Anas bin Malik about the Prophet, and he responded, "Until this day, the happiest day any of us ever experienced was the arrival of Prophet Muhammad to Medina. And by far the worst calamity and biggest disaster any of us have experienced since then was in fact his death. May God's peace, blessings, and mercy be upon his final messenger, Muhammad."